Hello and welcome. I feel like
welcome back.
that's my thing.
What?
I say hello and welcome.
Oh, you do it.
No, I'm saying, I say the phrase hello and welcome.
Oh. I thought you were like, let me do it, bitch. I'm like, okay.
Shut
I don't mind. You
go.
say hello.
No.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, guys.
Welcome. Why is this always so awkward? Like, why is the beginning weird?
You see, we missed a week and now we're like out of practice.
Oh, we have to explain.
Yeah, guys.
I had COVID. Again.
Well, if you didn't see our TikTok, first of all, follow us on TikTok.
Follow us on our social medias if you don't.
At MYWW.
And we also have personal Instagrams, which you will find linked in the description.
Yes.
Or you can follow us and you'll be updated on whatever's going on. But I did have COVID again last week.
Again.
My second
Is
time.
the keyword.
I'm
You're
better now. I am not great. So if you can hear something in my voice, that's what's going on.
Right.
And also if I take a break to cough in the middle of the episode, you know why. But I am good. I am healthy. There's no complications. I'm great.
Amazing.
But we're happy to be back. And I mean, we're back, but we're unhappy about the circumstances in the world currently, and I just quickly want to touch on that before we start this episode to say that we all know that currently Russia is at war with Ukraine. It is not the people of Russia, it is Putin, and we know that this is a terrible thing that should not be happening. Currently, about half an hour ago, there was a rocket explosion in Kharkiv that killed 6 people as far as I know. Kiev is currently still under Ukrainian control. The world is helping Ukraine, and we can only hope that Putin will withdraw his troops and that things will go as good as they can go.
Hope for the best.
Yeah.
Right.
We are keeping a close eye on the situation, as I think everyone should be, and I really want to say that I think it's so important that we all take this very seriously and pay attention to what's happening, because even if for me personally, I don't like to speak about war or violence or
Politics
or any of that stuff seriously in my life, and I don't think we have the same luxury today because we are in a space where this is something that is affecting all of us. And I'm not saying that there aren't other wars in the world that are important. I'm just saying that this is something
that aren't important.
Yeah, that aren't important. We should keep an eye on this, and if you don't know why it can affect you personally, definitely do some research and find out. Just do research on the history of Ukraine and Russia and you'll understand.
Right. But with all of that being said as well, we know that like people go to social media for different things, right? And a lot of people also like want to escape like all the craziness and the politics and the wars and the
stuff
things
that's happening in the world.
and the news. So yeah, we do acknowledge that also. So not to say that we're brushing any of this like under the rug. We do want to like touch on it and talk about it, but at the end of the day, we are also going to just carry on with.
Yeah, we encourage you to keep up to date with what's going on, and we will keep up to date with what's going on. But we acknowledge that this is an escape. So we are going to go on with other content. This does not mean that we don't think that this is important and horrible.
Right.
Okay.
Like at the beginning of the panorama, it almost felt like everywhere you looked, that was all that was being talked about, and it was so frustrating. Like obviously you have to talk about it and see what's happening and keep up to date, but like
especially then because it was so scary. We were like we didn't know what was going to happen with that whole situation.
A lot of the times, like people will just like literally beg their favorite YouTubers, like, can we please just move on?
Yeah. Can you please just make other content so that we can escape? And I definitely think that is also happening. Like I've been very caught up in the whole Ukraine and Russia thing, like to the point where that's like the thing I dream about, and like I have like real nightmares about it, and it gives me anxiety when I have to go to work and I know that I can't be updated like every couple of minutes on what's happening. Like the first thing I do at the end of my shift is look at like what happened, is everyone okay? And especially like 2 days ago when Zelensky was in real like trouble and under real like serious threat, I was like so scared that I was going to go on my phone and they were going to say the president was captured and killed.
No, I can imagine.
So we are here to escape for ourselves also.
Yes.
Just as much as this can be an escape for you. Today we're going to talk about periods. And we've both gone through some things.
Some girly stuff. That being said, obviously, if you are not assigned female at birth, you are more than welcome to stay. And, get educated. That would be great.
And join the discussion.
Yeah, join the discussion. We hope that this will be not only informative, but also, just validating to other people. Because a lot of the things that I want to talk about specifically, I didn't know weren't normal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So...
Yeah, I think it's important for us to discuss these things, especially as, it is still, unfortunately, considered a taboo topic, especially in South African society. And the medical field will, we know this, often brush the stuff under the rug or brush it off or tell you that it's normal when it's not. And so I think it's important for us, especially people with periods, should talk about it so that we can get more educated and educate each other.
Yes.
And if you're not a person with a period, I think it's still important that you know this, because most likely you will have someone in your life that does have a period that you can help.
Right.
In saying all of that, if whatever you choose to do, we are going to discuss our personal experiences. That does not invalidate your experience. It does not say that you are wrong for doing anything or not doing anything. You have complete bodily autonomy. We support that. We support you in all your choices that you make for your body. Whatever is safe and healthy for you, please keep doing that. What we are going to talk about is just our experiences of our bodies and
what works for us.
Yeah.
Right. And even in that, we don't, the same things don't work for you that work for me. Cool. So let's go.
And we're also still figuring it out.
Still figuring it out. I'm still confused. Anyways, so...
So I think a good starting place for this conversation is to talk about reproductive choices that we've made. And so you did something different from what I did. So can you tell us your story and how you got to that?
So I started birth control, in general, in 2019. And my choice of birth control was the copper pearls. I don't remember if I saw an ad for it and then you talked to me about it, or the other way around, but we had previously spoken about it. And we were like, oh my gosh, this is a new device that looks so cool, because it's supposed to be 100% natural, there's no hormones. And it's shaped, it's an IUD, but instead of being the normal T, it's round with little balls of copper.
It's almost like a string of pearls.
Right, so it's supposed to not perforate your uterus or whatever, and it's supposed to be amazing and wonderful.
So the whole premise of it was basically that IUDs that existed in the past were all piggybacked in. If you don't understand that term, it's just means that they weren't individually tested. There was one model tested, the rest of them were approved based on that model.
Right.
So this was a completely new model. It looked completely different, and it did. It worked completely differently, and it was supposed to be really, really amazing. The research at that point said that it was incredible, and both of us were very interested in it.
Right. So I Googled, which is what I do with a lot of things, copper pearls doctor near me. And the lady that is now my gynae popped up. So she is on the official Copper Pearls South Africa website as one of the practitioners that approved the device, or inserts it or do the whatever. She has something to do with the copper pearls. So I emailed them, and this should have been a red flag actually, looking back from the beginning. I emailed them, I was like, hi, I want to get the copper pearls, whatever, cool. And they were like, okay, that's fine, but if you want to do that, you have to buy the device
yourself. Who did you email? The doctor?
Her receptionist lady. And it was weird, because I thought I should just go and she should have the device there.
No.
Okay, but anyways, it snowballs into a bigger thing. So I'll explain more of this later. But anyway, they were like, okay, whatever. If you really want to do that, go buy the device, bring it, cool. So I had my appointment. She inserted the IUD. Everything was great. She did warn me though. She was like, okay, just so you know, this will cause your your period itself will get longer. You might have more heavy cramps and things like that. But it should regulate within 6 months to a year.
So just to explain what you said quickly, you went to your gynae, said that you wanted the copper pearls on an email. They sent you to a third party to purchase the device. You took it into the office and she inserted it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Then I left. It was great. Had my checkup. Great. Now, long story short, I went back to her this year, and she was like, "So how are you feeling with your IUD?" And I was like, "Oh, I love it." And she's like, "Okay, and how's your period?" And I'm like, "Yeah. So my period is 8 days long. I bleed through my jeans. I have to wear a tampon and a pad. And I have really severe cramps where I can't even walk half the time. My legs go numb every couple of months." And she's like,
"So you're not happy?"
"You're not happy." And I'm like, "Okay," but in my head that didn't...
You didn't think it was that?
I didn't think it was because of the copper pearls. Anyways, she explains to me that she was like, "You know, when you came in 2019, you came with the device and you told me, insert this for me. And obviously from like a medical standpoint and ethics and whatever, like I have my bodily autonomy, you know, if that's what I wanted, then she has to do it. She can't be like, no." And she was like, "I wasn't going to tell you to sell the copper pearls on the black market."
Yeah, like, what are you going to do?
What's going to happen?
You already purchased the device.
She was like, "So I did that for you, but from that point already, I wasn't a fan of the copper pearls." And I was like, "What do you mean?" Basically, she told me all this drama that apparently a lot of her patients had the copper pearls and they were having symptoms like me, like their periods just got extremely bad. Like, yes, it's with an IUD, the symptoms can get worse, but not to the point where they double in severity than what they were. And she also had patients that had the device and they still got pregnant. She had one person who actually the device just fell out and they don't know how or when or why.
That's crazy.
So she's like, "I've just had so many problems with the copper pearls. And it's obviously not helping you. It's not making your life better. So let's look at other options." And that just shook me to my core. Because I didn't relate this whole time that
it was that.
It was that.
Also, I just want to mention that if you want to educate yourself further on this, I think a really important documentary to watch is The Bleeding Ground on Netflix. I did a paper on it one time, and I think it's so important and exposes so much of the medical field, and especially around IUDs and other hormonal devices or birth control devices that are inserted into women, and how half the time they're really not safe, but they get approved anyways. And so if you want to understand that whole process, I think it's really important to go watch that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you, a lot of conversations recently have been about how really women don't get... So let's say a guy goes for any medical situation that involves genitalia where they're going to insert anything, cut anything, whatever, he will immediately receive anesthesia, whether that's local or whatever. Whereas with women, that doesn't happen. Unless you're in labor, that really does not occur. And a lot of people speak about the pain of having an IUD inserted and how medical professionals will say, "Oh, it's just a pinch or whatever," but actually it's really, really painful. And I wanted to speak to you about that.
It was the worst pain I've ever experienced in my entire life. And now, after I had this conversation with my gynae, then doing more research and reading other women's stories and stuff, I've like seen on several like people have posted or whatever that the pain that they felt with the insertion, it was even worse than like labor itself.
Yeah.
And I was like,
that's what I'm saying. Like,
and that's why when we were talking about like my other options, like what else I can like have, she mentioned another IUD that she said is not the Mirena, it's like the Mirena's younger cousin. So it's like less hormones, it's supposed to be more like respectful to your body, like, you know, whatever. And I was like, yeah, like cool, but if I literally, these are my words to her, I was like, if I have to think of going through another insertion, I'm literally gonna kill myself. And she was like, okay. So we went through that.
But that's what I'm saying, like not even your gynae has that choice to make. Like she can't even say, "Oh, okay, I'm just going to give you anesthesia," you know, because that's not the procedure here.
It's not part of it. Yeah.
Why isn't it? If so many women complain about this procedure and how painful it is, and
so painful.
Why aren't we listening to women in this scenario? Why if we're going to say the issue is that there is a board of men who are making decisions about women's bodies, listen to the woman. Listen to her saying, "It's painful." There's a very easy fix for it.
Yeah. I mean, Yeah, it just all leads back to like misogyny, right? And like
The patriarchy.
the patriarchy. They're like, shut up, we're the scientists. Yeah.
And a lot of the time, women's pain gets invalidated. And I mean, for women of color, it's even worse. But we're all in the same boat in the sense of like being invalidated in our medical experiences and in our bodily autonomy.
Right. But also, this is why I'm so grateful that this lady is my gynae and she's so wonderful. And like, you really have to have a relationship with your gynae because they're just such an important person in your life and someone that you should be able to trust, because she literally put me in my place, dude. She was like, you're bleeding yourself to death every month. You're going through so much pain and it doesn't have to be like this. And she went on a whole rant. She was like, I hate when people say that periods are supposed to be painful. You're supposed to go through hell because that's not it. Like, it's not normal. And I was like, that's when it clicked for me. I was like, whoa.
It's really crazy how we go through most of our like teens and stuff and nobody ever says to us painful periods are not normal, because that's exactly what happened to me. I always had like, well, actually no, when I was really young, I never had any cramps, nothing ever, like I was good.
Right.
But then I would say around 17, 18, I started getting severe cramps that were like, my back would hurt so bad. My stomach would hurt, my legs would hurt, it would be horrible. And it kind of escalated to the point where I remember one day in university, I was in my car drinking painkillers and I couldn't get up and out of my car to walk to class. I had to sleep, like take a nap in my car with my painkillers and then miss that class and go to the next one because I actually couldn't walk.
Yeah. And it shouldn't be like that.
I thought that was normal. And I remember going home and I was on my bed in a bowl saying, this is so painful. And my mom saying to me, yeah, it's normal.
Yeah.
We have painful periods. It is what it is.
It is what it is. And it's not.
And then that's exactly the thing. I am grateful for the doctor that I had. I had a male doctor and a female doctor. And the female doctor I'm still with her. She's amazing. The male doctor was also incredible. He just left. That's why I'm no longer with him. But they worked together and yeah. So I went to the doctor and I was like, listen, I've now realized that this isn't normal. I need help. And this is the thing that I also want to talk about, how diagnoses work for women in issues like this, because we've now both had a similar experience in this, where I told him all my symptoms. He made me fill out he made me fill out a questionnaire. I filled it out. And then he did a basic examination and he was like, okay, I think you have endometriosis, you might have it. Here's birth control, take it, we'll see what happens. I went on birth control. A couple of months later, I had to do a sonar for unrelated reasons to look at my kidneys. And then they just checked up on my whole reproductive system in that same appointment. And then they said, oh, okay, yeah, you look better. Inflammation went down, you look good. Was probably endometriosis, keep drinking your birth control.
Finished.
That's it. That was my diagnosis.
But now what must happen?
Like, where do I go from here, babe?
Like, I still have a whole life ahead of me to live and there's still going to be complications. Like, endometriosis isn't something that just goes away. It's a chronic...
And also, like, if I have it, how do I know 100%? Because is this how they diagnose you? Like, is this it?
This is what we were talking about, because my gynae, when I went to her, whenever it was last week, was also like, when I was telling her all my symptoms and whatever, she was like, this might be endometriosis. But she also, like your doctor, didn't actually say, okay, this is endometriosis, I'm diagnosing you with it, because they can't. The only way, from my like research and stuff, the only way they can definitively say that you have endo is by like literally you going through surgery and then like cutting you open. So, and the thing is,
Which I don't want to do.
Yeah, like, not everyone is going to go through that. Like, we don't want to do that just to be diagnosed with something.
Yeah.
So that's what they do. They ask questions, they will, like, feel, and, like, they'll say, this looks like, but they'll never just say, this is endometriosis.
Which is frustrating to me, because I feel like, what if it isn't? You know, now I'm going on that presumption, and I'm working off of it, and yes, it's working for now, but, like, what if it's just masking symptoms? What if it's not actually working and something deeper is wrong or whatever? And like, it's important here again to have a good relationship with your gynae, your doctor. Like, have a good relationship with medical professionals in your life. And I know that's such an easy thing to say and a harder thing to do, because
it is very awkward at first.
Yeah, and also like some doctors just aren't good at their jobs. They're just not interested in their patients and inpatient care, and so they'll just do whatever to mask your symptoms and shut you up. And so I think
they'll just, sometimes it feels like they're like reading out a textbook to you.
Yeah.
And you're like, but I'm a person behind the symptoms, you know?
So I think it's important to have a doctor that you could form a relationship with. And another thing that's important is, like, if you find a doctor that you can have a relationship with, give them your medical history and also stay with that doctor. Because recently I went to her with a different problem entirely, and she could help me only because she had records of previous stuff that happened to me. She could relate the two and say, okay, this is what's happening, I think. So let's treat that, you know? So I think it's important to have that relationship. And then also you get to a point where you can ask these questions, which is something that I should actually do. I should go to her and ask her, like, what if this is something bigger? What if it's not this? Because it's anxiety inducing. Like, what if it isn't?
Right. Well, the thing is with my gynae, she did an internal ultrasound. And I like felt pain, and she was like, but this isn't supposed to be painful. And then she was looking and she's like, okay, there's no cysts. So that's when she was like, this could be endo, because I assumed that if there was cysts, then it would have been PCOS or something else. But where was I going with that thought?
I think you're just saying, like, that's how you were diagnosed. But yeah, same. Basically, I didn't have any internal ultrasound. I just had external examinations. But yeah, that's basically the same thing. And then they figured out that I had like inflammation and a bunch of stuff. And then birth control treated that, and it went away. Which is...
So, are you feeling better now on birth control?
Much better.
On the pill?
Yes.
What pill are you taking?
Yasmin Plus. Which I was just on Yasmin, but Yasmin Plus now has folic acid and like just more nutrients, basically.
Nutrients.
But that's another thing I want to talk about, actually. I have seen a lot of female gynecologists who are trained professionals talking on social media about how birth control was invented by men, obviously, back in the day. And it's the same model as the IUD, where there was one
that was approved.
Yeah, one was approved and the rest was piggybacked on that system. And so they all kind of work the same way with some differences. But you don't have to have a withdrawal bleed. Like, you don't have to have a period on birth control, which is frustrating that nobody ever says that. And sorry. So she says that basically the specific doctor that I listened to said that men basically said, oh, okay, well, if women aren't going to have a withdrawal bleed, which is what they call it, then they're going to have hysteria. So they need to have a withdrawal bleed. So your period isn't actually real on birth control. It's just fabricated. And you don't need to have it. You can just keep drinking your pill. And if you're going to do this, please speak to your doctor beforehand so that she can advise you, or he can advise you on the specific birth control that you're taking, how to do it. But yeah, you don't have to have a withdrawal bleed. How come nobody ever told us this?
They don't talk about that. You know what else frustrates me about the birth control pill? Especially now, like with endo and like all this stuff, like it's supposed to help your symptoms, make you feel better. And then there's so many gynaes and doctors and also other people on social media in general that demonize the pill so much, and I understand where they're coming from. But then, like, now where do I stand? Like, if I'm in a situation where I have to take it, but now I'm hearing all these things like it's gonna ruin your life, it's a depression pill, it's like this, it's that, like, where does that leave like people with endo and things where it's supposed to like help your symptoms and all of that? Because now, like, I trust my doctor. Like, I know what she's saying. And it's funny because I said this to her in the appointment. I was like, but I'm just so scared of birth control, whatever. Then I was like, but actually, you're my doctor. I should just trust you. She was like, yeah, you should trust me. So coming out of that, now I go onto my phone, and obviously my phone is like tracking me and listening to my conversation. So I get videos on like, birth control's the demon, like the devil, whatever. And I'm like, Now I'm like taking this pill every day, like, you know.
Well, that's literally the two sides of it. So like, I agree with you because that was also my experience. First of all, like we can talk about the stigmas around birth control also,
Mm.
and like the way that it was demonized in my mind was that like I want to be careful in how I word this, but like external pressure from family members to be like, you cannot be on birth control, you know, because whatever stigmas they have. So
Right.
that also exists, and that's a whole different paradigm and a whole different layer of shame around birth control that should not exist.
Yeah.
But then to talk about the fact that, yeah, that's true, a lot of people demonize it. And when you're in a situation where you're being told, this is gonna help you, and what you're hearing about it is, it's so bad, don't do it, whatever. It's terrifying. It's terrifying to go into that. And like, even now, I'm still terrified, because I'm like, all I hear is like, it causes cancer, it causes this, it causes that, and I'm like, obviously I don't want that to happen to me, but like now I've taken it and it is helping me. So like, but there are two sides of it also. So what I want to say is like, my experience of it is, the first while when you start taking it, it can really mess with your emotions a lot. And you'll feel it, like it's just like mood swings, like, but it will stabilize. Like, it doesn't, I'm not saying like, oh, it's gonna take months, like it's a couple of weeks. And then there's the two sides. The one side is, it helps me so much with my symptoms. My periods aren't painful, they're regular, they're scheduled, like it's good. And then the other aspect of it is, yeah, it's the demon pull. Like it like really messes with your emotions. It makes you feel completely different. And how I can say this is because I went on it for a prolonged period of time and then went off it for a while to see what the difference would be. And there was a massive difference, because all of my like endo symptoms went away on birth control, but then came back when I went off it. But my emotions, I didn't notice actively. I wasn't like, oh, my emotions are so different, my mindset's so different, until I went off of it, and I was like, oh, yeah, I feel like a different person. Like,
and a lot of people say that.
Yeah, I feel completely different when I'm not on it, and like my emotions. So I would say my emotions and my mental state is better off of it, but my physical health is better on it.
Oh, dude, and that's the thing, like your physical health affects your mental and emotional health as well. So I don't know, dude.
It's like a sacrifice, basically, either way.
But like I said, I do trust my gynae.
Yeah.
And I love her so much. And so what we did, she said, listen, I'm not gonna remove the IUD just yet. We're gonna put you on a 3-month trial period with this pill. I'm taking Zoli. It's called Zoli.
I don't know, Zoli.
Anyways, she's like, we're gonna put you on a 3-month trial period. Monitor your symptoms. You come back to me in 3 months. Depending on how you're feeling, we either go with it and I remove the IUD, or we try something else, whatever. So yeah, that makes me feel a bit better, because I'm like, at least this isn't forever. Like, she's like, take it and trust me and just like leave, shut up.
No, yeah.
You know, she's like, let's see how it goes, and it's like a slow process. So
and I think that's also important. If you are going to go on birth control and you are going to go on the pill, you have to try different ones and be very open and honest with your doctor. And also, like, even if you've taken birth control for a long time, you've been on one brand for a long time, check in with your doctor. My doctor still checks in with me and says, is this the right prescription for you? Are you feeling any weird or side effects? She like gives me a list of stuff. She's like, are you feeling any of this? Is this happening to you? Otherwise we can change your prescription, you know? Yeah, if you find something that works for you, stick to it, but don't stick to it to the dead end that's not going to lead you anywhere. Just be very honest with yourself. Be very honest with your doctor. And if you need to change your birth control, change it.
Because as you grow, your body changes and your needs change as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I just want to go back to talking about like the taboo around birth control and stuff. Just obviously this is just a baseline that you should never ask people openly, like, when are you having a baby and things like that, because it's first of all, it's rude. Second of all, you don't know what people are going through. Third of all, like, let's say for example, I do want to have kids one day, right? But not right now. That's not the point of the story. The point of the story is, using me as an example, now I find out I have endo, right? Now tomorrow night you come to my house and you're like, oh my gosh, don't wait too long to have kids. Now I'm going through this whole emotional trauma of, I've just been diagnosed with endo, I don't know if I'm infertile, now I have to take birth control because it's going to make my symptoms better. And now you're also demonizing birth control, and like, now what must happen?
And
Where do I
at the end of
stand?
the day, like, endo can also make your pregnancy more dangerous if it's like flared up and stuff. So if you're taking your birth control, it can actually help you in family planning. Like, it can help you in that aspect. I think there's so much shame around birth control and like just bodily autonomy. Like, once again, you know what? At the end of the day, even if I don't want to have kids and I'm on birth control, why are you asking me when I want to have kids? Like, it doesn't concern you. And if it is something you're genuinely concerned about and you're close enough to the person to be able to have that conversation, have it with them in private.
Right. And like, obviously, I'm not saying don't, like you said, if you're close enough to the person, let's say I'm talking to my sister, cool. Like, there's a way to go about things. Like, you're not just going to be like,
so when you're gonna have kids?
When's the next one? Like, I'm waiting. I want to be an aunt again. Like, shut up.
It's not about you.
Don't talk to me like that.
Yeah.
So hopefully no one listening is like that. But just
also another thing is like,
be conscious.
I think people don't realize, we're not going to talk about it in this episode or maybe ever, but how traumatizing pregnancy is and how traumatizing giving birth is. Like, a lot of conversations I've seen recently around like reproductive health and stuff is like women finally speaking about how their birth traumatized them or how their pregnancy traumatized them. And do you know how many women are diagnosed with PTSD after giving birth?
Yeah.
That is something that's not spoken about. It's something that people feel shame about. And it's so unnecessary. It is a terrifying and traumatic event that your body is going through. And if you went through that amount of pain and trauma and bleeding and prolonged suffering, and you like for anything other than having a baby, that would have been seen as like a medical event that happened in your life that was catastrophic. But because it was a pregnancy, people are like, yeah, you're supposed to do that. Your body's supposed to do that.
No.
That does not mean it cannot be traumatic. That does not mean it can't be horrifying and a terrible thing to live through. And that does also not mean that you're not grateful for your kids.
Yeah, that doesn't make you a bad mother as well.
Like, or you don't want the kid or whatever. That it doesn't mean that. You can have those experiences both and have them separately. Just because your pregnancy was terrible and your birth was traumatic doesn't make your kid a horrible person or whatever. Right. But you can still feel that trauma.
Yeah, and you don't have to suppress it, and you don't have to be like, I'm a shit woman because my body went through this and I couldn't handle it. Like, no, it's okay. I actually saw she's a Cape Townian blogger that I follow. Her name is, I don't know what her name is, but her handle is Fashion Breed. I love her so much. And she's like, has shared openly her like infertility journey and like all these things. And she's finally pregnant and she's going to have her baby.
She has PCOS, right?
Yes. And she's so happy, whatever. And she posted something, I think it was yesterday or a few days ago. She's always posting like really cool, like deep stuff. But this one, she was like, I'm so glad that I'm living in an age where like women are being open about how difficult pregnancy can be, motherhood, and like how those things don't invalidate, like that doesn't make you a bad mother just because you literally exactly what you said. And I was like, wow, this is cool that it's being talked about.
A lot of like media and stuff will romanticize the having the child. Like it's that moment where like, oh, the birth is so hard, the labor is so hard, and here's the baby and I forget everything. And I don't think that's true. From my experiences and listening to women, that's not the truth. Yes, you get the baby and you're grateful to have the baby and you're grateful to hopefully have a healthy baby and you're grateful that they're in the world and that you can be a mom. That doesn't mean you didn't just go through a painful labor. It doesn't erase it. And yes, there are hormones that are released in your body that make you feel better.
I was just gonna say.
That make you feel better. That don't fix it.
They don't erase the trauma.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think it's so ridiculous that is expected. And then also that it's expected like, okay, you gave birth, a week later you need to be just fine, be yourself. Why are you just had a baby and now you're not back to having a six-pack and you're not walking around. I think that's
bouncing
crazy.
back of your body, like, oh, that bothers me so much.
I have family who were lucky enough genetically to have a baby or have had babies and kids and immediately after be absolutely fine. Like literally I have an aunt who gave birth and 4 days later she's standing in a picture with a completely toned body. And she's walking.
Skinny jeans and all.
Yeah, and she's walking and she's great. That's not everybody's experience.
That's not everyone. And that's, I think, the whole point of this is like we need to honor our bodies and like what we can do and like all these things, and understand that we're not all the same, and we do go through everything differently, because you can have a traumatic birth and all of that, but you can also have a wonderful birth. Like, dude, my sister.
Yeah, your sister had a lovely birth.
She was chilling, bro. She was like in active labor, and she's like, no, I just have like a cramp here, man. I don't know what this is. And her husband's like, okay, let's go to the hospital. It's time. Like, I think it's time. And she's like, no, man,
I'm fine.
I think I'm good.
So but that's what I'm saying. We should be validating these experiences in the sense that we can speak about both, and neither one of them is shameful. Because what I see a lot is that romanticized. Like, my birth was amazing, or the labor was horrible, but then I had my beautiful baby. But now my beautiful baby made everything so much better. And I think that invalidates the experience of hundreds and thousands and millions of women who don't have that experience. Right. And I just want to say something else that irks me. Okay, I'm not a pregnancy person. I don't enjoy the idea of pregnancy. It absolutely freaks me out and terrifies me. Pregnant bodies freak me out. I will never tell the person that I'm uncomfortable with them being around me, but I overthink it. It bothers me in the sense that like it gives me anxiety. My body, I can't handle it. But something that absolutely just irks me is when people say, she's treating pregnancy like it's a disease and she can't do anything for herself. Excuse me. Do you know what this woman's body is going through? And even if you went through pregnancy and you're saying that to another woman, how dare you? How dare you, yeah. Literally. Just because your experience of pregnancy wasn't horrible doesn't mean that other people's experiences aren't. Don't invalidate other women because you had a good experience. I think that is the most horrible thing that you can do, to say, oh, she treats pregnancy like it's a disease. And I've heard that said so many times. Dude, I feel like just around pregnancy itself, like it's almost like the woman is not a person anymore. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, especially, you know what irritates, pregnancy is a bit like, it freaks me out, and I will never touch a pregnant woman's stomach. That is the number one thing that bothers me so much. It bothers me, it scares me, and it also grosses me out a little bit. Like, cool, if it's your own body, like you're going through it, I'm sure that's a cool experience. You're like, wow, this thing is growing, cool. But for someone to come and put their hand on, like, don't fucking touch me. Dude, if I ever get pregnant and I have kids and someone comes to touch me, even if it's my fucking mom, I'll slap their hand away. Like, don't touch me. But I think it's a different experience. Like, well, you know Zoe Sugg? Yes. She spoke about her pregnancy, and she said that she was always terrified of, like, the baby moving. It was, like, something that was, like, terrifying to her to think about it and to, like, conceptualize, like, there's going to be something growing inside of me and it's going to move. And she always thought it was going to freak her out. And she also said the same thing. She didn't think that she was going to, like, want people to touch her and stuff. And then as soon as her baby started moving, she was like, this is the coolest thing ever. And she put everybody's hands on her so she would feel it. She was forcing everyone to touch her. But she also said that, like, she doesn't understand how strangers feel like they can come up to you and touch you. Because that's just because you're pregnant. It's like, just because you're pregnant now, you're public property. Like, no. One of my cousins had a baby, and something that, like, really bothered her, of course it bothered her, is when she would go in public with her new baby, people would, like, look at the baby, like, open the the crib and the pram, and, like, look at the baby. And, like, when the baby was, like, a toddler, people would try and touch her, or, like, touch her hands or touch her feet or stuff in line and stuff. And don't do that. Like, don't touch other people's kids. No, like, I understand if a baby's in front of you in a queue and they're cute, because babies are curious and they're looking at you, and we've all had that experience where, like, the baby's staring at you over the mom's shoulder or whatever. And you're like, yeah, like, that's what I feel like. It's fine to, like, wave at the baby and whatever. Just don't touch other people's bodies. Like, no, don't. Like, that's exactly what I'm saying. Just because someone is pregnant, has just had a baby, or is going around with their newborn baby, doesn't give you the right to go up to them and touch them. Like, they're still humans. Yes. If it was any other random person, you wouldn't do that. Exactly. And kids are so strange. They'll probably come up to you and grab your hand and whatever, and that's a different story. But, like, grabbing a baby out of someone's hands, or, like, opening stuff, don't do that. Yeah. But with pregnancy in general, I feel like, even not just the touching, like, also just unsolicited advice in general from your people. Boundaries are crossed very easily. So easily. And I feel like that's something that's, I don't know how people handle that. Like, I'm sure it's so difficult, like, socially, because people think, like, okay, I've had a kid, so now I can tell you what's going to happen. But, and I mean, it's different. It's difficult from both sides, right? Because if you're going to So, like we're talking now, right? There's a lot of misinformation around women's reproductive health. There's also a lot of misinformation about pregnancy and a lot of new information about pregnancy. So I'm sure, like, I don't think people coming to you with information mean it in a bad way. Nobody has bad intentions with sharing their information, but people coming to you, like, I'm putting myself in the shoes of a pregnant person. If I had to be pregnant now and a bunch of people, like, okay, first of all, it's already terrifying. I'm pregnant, I know that. That's a responsibility that I have. I know I'm gonna have a kid. Now I'm trying to educate myself in every way that I possibly can and get ready to have this baby. Now people are sitting in front of me and everybody's giving me contradicting advice on what to do and how to do it and what's the best thing. And don't formula feed, only breastfeed, because there's a lot of opinions out there around pregnancy. And I think, like, another thing is, like, don't assume, like, people will say, oh, well, she only breastfed her baby for 1 day, or never breastfed her baby. She only formula fed, so she's a bad mom. And she could have, not everybody has the capabilities. There are multiple different reasons why people aren't breastfeeding or can't breastfeed. Unless that person is your sister or whoever that's close to you that is willing to disclose that information to you, it doesn't have anything to do with you.
Or if someone is asking for advice or whatever, that's different. But do you just, like, treat pregnant women with respect that you would treat any other human.
And the stigma around, like, that's a whole other conversation that we're also not going to have, but the stigma around breastfeeding or bottle feeding, like formula feeding.
Yeah.
To the point where there are regulations against formula, like specific formula ads. Like, there's regulation around that. How can you stop information from reaching women that need it? Not everybody can breastfeed. So formula exists because it is an option that can be utilized. Why not utilize it? There's real issues around finding up-to-date, proper information on formula feeding, unless you have the resources to go to a specialist or a doctor and go and speak to them. Not everybody has those resources available to them all the time.
Right.
I think it's ridiculous that exists, and so don't add to the stigma of it.
No, it's ridiculous. I agree.
If somebody is formula feeding, they're formula feeding. Doesn't have anything to do with you. It's not your kid.
End of the story.
And it's also not your body. And if someone tells you that they're on birth control, not on birth control, using the pill, using an IUD, that's their choice.
Yeah, it's not up to you to decide.
So let's not shame people. And if you feel like it's genuinely bad, like, I also can understand. If I'm sitting here and I had a horrible, terrible experience with birth control, and I want to warn you because I'm so scared that happens to you, there's a way of going about it.
Yeah.
There's a, like,
just think.
I understand that there are women who have healed their endometriosis through gut health and eating their... I do not have the time or the resources to feed myself in that way that I heal myself. And I also am not willing to be in that gut-wrenching pain for the next 2 years to figure out, do I need to eat 3 carrots or only 2?
Yeah, it's not... Yeah.
So I'm going to take the birth control.
Everyone makes their own choices and we just need to respect that.
Yeah.
Going off of that, another conversation we do need to talk about before we end this episode is around menstruation itself and
the products that you can use.
Yeah.
That are available to use.
Because we've also had our rides with those.
Yeah, we have. Why is there so much stigmas around the stuff, man? Like, there was just so much stigma around period products and which ones you can use and which ones you can't use, and you're too young to use certain, like, baby, it's... Okay, here's my opinion. Hot take. If you have a period, you're probably not too young to use any period product.
That's the truth.
So maybe let's not tell women that.
Yeah.
And also, let's not spread false information about you are no longer a virgin if you use tampons.
First of all, the idea of virginity is a construct.
First of all.
So let's just leave it at that.
But even if you want to remain in that belief, that's not how it works.
No, it's not right. It's not true.
So let's not spread that. And if you want to go over that and not use it because of that, that's fine. That's your choice. Don't tell other people.
Don't
not
shame
to.
other people for it.
And I think, in my experience specifically, this is probably not our target audience, but older women specifically have been in my life the people who have created the most shame around period products and which period products to use.
Dude, again, our lives are so different, and it's so interesting because for me, I almost feel like the opposite. Because so I got my period very early. I was like grade 4 or grade 5. And so I was obviously one of the first girls, like it was probably me and another girl that had our period in that year. And like we would do swimming for PE. That was like our swimming year. And whenever we got our periods, we would just sit to the side and we're like, and it was a female teacher. And we're like, ma'am, we're on our periods, like we can't swim. And she would almost like shame us into like, why aren't you wearing a tampon? Like, just do it. Grow up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, first of all, like, yes, I can.
But I don't want to.
Also, I'm just starting my period. Like, I don't know what's going on. If I'm comfortable only wearing pads, like, leave me alone. You know what I mean?
That's another thing, like, I think people don't talk about, like, it takes a while to develop, like, a sense of your body and, like, comfortability around your body to, like, use different products.
To adjust. And that's the thing, because, okay, yes, you get your period every month, but it's only, like, a week or so, or even less, especially in the beginning. So, I mean, you have, like, let's say 4 or 5 days to try out one brand of pads. Then you're like, okay, I don't know if I like it or not. So you use it the next month. And then the next month...
you don't even know what there is to like or not to like.
Right. So, like, it's like a period of, like, a year or even longer where you're, like, trying to try different products and see what's happening and what's not working and what is working.
For me, it's still ongoing. Like, I'm still using new stuff. But, like,
right.
I started using a period cup 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago. And I did a lot of research on it before I tried using it. And a lot of the research that I found was like, you need to be very comfortable with your body, which I felt like I'm very comfortable with my body. I don't have any issues. People were like, you can't be triggered by blood, obviously. I'm like, yeah, I'm not. Like, okay.
I feel like at this point.
No, like, at this point I'm good. Like, I'm alright.
Yeah.
And I started using it, and honestly, like, I thought, all these people are exaggerating. Like, it can't be, because everyone is saying it's going to take some adjustments, it's going to take some getting used to, like, whatever. And I was like, these people are exaggerating. Like, I'm good. Like, I was like, if you can use a tampon and you're comfortable with it, you should be comfortable with this. Different ballgame, guys.
Yeah.
Two different things.
The thing with menstrual cups is that I have experienced, not all of them are made equal.
No.
And that's the biggest thing, like, not all of them are made equal. So yes, it's an easy concept to grasp. Like, you understand how to insert it, you understand how to take it out, like, you know when the way that it feels if it's not inserted properly. But that doesn't mean that the one that you have at this point is going to work for you.
Yes.
So you will have to go through it.
Which is also ridiculous and annoying, because now you're paying whatever, it's 300, 400 rand every time for a new one to see if it works for you, and then it doesn't work. Then what do? You just have this thing. And the whole point of it kind of is also to be like sustainable. Like, you want to buy one and keep it for 5 years or keep it for 10 years, whatever the thing is.
Now you have 5 that are sitting there because you can't give them to your friend.
What are you going to do?
What's going to happen?
I don't know. But yeah, and also something else that needs to be spoken about is, like, anatomy is different for different people. People's cervixes sit in different places, and your cervix moves around during your cycle. So, like, using menstrual cups, different menstrual cups for different people is also important. And a friend actually asked me to speak about this, and something that she mentioned to speak about is, like, well, first of all, the light ones stain, which they don't tell you.
Yeah, I have a clear one.
Yeah.
And it's completely stained.
Yeah.
And even though you clean it, you still feel like,
are you clean?
should I be putting this inside my body?
Yeah, I did a lot of research on that also. I have a light pink one, which I think is actually perfect. It hasn't stained, like, it hasn't gotten darker, which I know happens for light ones. This one hasn't gotten darker at all, but she suggested getting a black one. I've never personally had a black one.
I feel like I would be so scared. Like,
yeah.
Is it clean? I can't
see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you have it, it's also a responsibility that you take to, like, there's more effort that goes into it. Like, there's more prep that goes into it. You're, like, boiling it and cleaning it and, like, washing it. And now
there's so much admin, dude.
And there's also the aspect of, like, if you are going to be cleaning it in public, like, what's the procedure here? Because you're gonna have to go into like a bathroom stall that also has a basin. Otherwise, you're just gonna be walking around with blood on your hand. I don't know. Like there's things to consider.
Yes.
And so that's another thing. People who are like, I find people who use period cups can become really big advocates for it, in the sense of like being very pushy. Like
There's
you
a
have to.
they're like,
must.
this is the best thing.
And you can't use anything else. And if you ever buy tampons or pads ever again, you failed in your mission. Like you can only use this one thing. I think that's ridiculous. Like you should use a mixture of whatever works for you. But if you're gonna do it, just know there is consideration that goes into it.
Right. And just like birth control, just because it works for you for a year or a couple of months or whatever, doesn't mean it's gonna keep working for you forever. Like in my case, I got my first menstrual cup when I was like, let's say grade 10 or something.
Whoa.
Yeah, pretty early on. And I used it, and at the time I was dancing a lot, and it was great. I loved it. It was the best thing ever. When I got my IUD, I couldn't use it anymore. Yeah. I felt like the suction was gonna pull my IUD out.
I've heard that.
I think, well, my doctor was saying that the lady that her thing fell out, she thinks it's because she was using a menstrual cup, and she disposed it. And she disposed it in a public toilet. So she suctioned out her IUD. And she didn't know it was there. Because obviously...
That is actually ridiculous, first of all. And also, like, that's flushing a 3,000 rand medical device literally down the toilet.
Goodbye. No, but I could literally, in the first few months that I had my IUD in and I would use the cup, I could feel like something is pulling here that should not be pulling. So
that is terrifying.
It was terrifying. So I had to stop using my cup.
So that's another thing to consider. If you have it, be careful.
Be careful. You might just suck your IUD out and throw it down the toilet.
Yeah. Also, like, another thing to speak about is like different cups have different suctions and different like ways of removing it. They have different stalks, like things to touch, and like there's different levels of comfort for different people.
Yeah.
She said that the ones with the ball on the end is way more comfortable for her. That's not my experience. The ones that are like straight that you can cut is like the most comfortable for me. So like you have to try different ones at the end. It's terrible. But then also like, so okay, those are the horrible things, but also there's very good things. I love it. I really like it a lot. It's so much more comfortable for me. I love the fact that I can reuse it. I love the fact that I can keep it in for 12 hours and not worry about toxic shock. I know it has happened, but it isn't like a big concern. Yeah. And like I'm comfortable with my body and whatever. But then also, so this is something that I wanted to talk to you about also. The different people have different anatomy, whatever. The cup for me closes my urethra, so it's like literally harder to pee. And so I did like research on it because I was like, I don't know if this is normal, and I have kidney issues, so I don't want to like assume that things aren't normal and then I'm like, actually I should just go and make sure that my kidneys are okay.
Your kidneys are okay.
And then it's a thing for some women, like it's a thing. And so there are now new shapes in like the cup that like allows more leeway for your anatomy, but they're not available in South Africa yet.
Of course.
So now I can't find it unless I ship it in.
So now it defeats the point of having a menstrual cup because you can't keep it in as long, right?
Well, I can pee, but like it's not the same. Like I'm peeing for 5 minutes and I'm like, I think I'm like ruining my pelvic floor because
that
like,
can't be good.
You're not supposed to be like pushing to pee.
Yeah.
Push and pee.
Yo, this is, a lot of people don't know this. You're not supposed to push your pee out.
Yeah.
Or anything else.
Yeah, but like,
you're not supposed to push, guys.
Go like, just if you don't know this, like there's, what is her name? There's a lady on YouTube, TikTok, wherever, and she has a pee clinic. Like literally, that's what she does. And she like does pelvic floor training and like she like tells you like don't do this shit because you think that you must push to pee and then actually it's ruining your pelvic floor and it's like causing you issues in the long run.
It's really bad.
But that's what I'm saying. So I don't want to do that for a prolonged like period of time. But now I'm like, this is so much more comfortable. And I will say that when I did have period cramps, it did help. Like, I don't know what the science is behind it. I know that a lot of people said, like when I did research, people were saying like it helps with period cramps, whatever. And I was like, That was the one thing that I'm like, I don't know about this, because like, what's the science behind that? But it did help. It helped.
I don't know if I ever noticed that. I don't know. Well, I stopped using my period cup a long time ago. Also because I feel like, because I got it like so young,
back.
and then I never really bought another one.
Your body adjusted.
There was a point where I was like, this is not working anymore. The suction was too suctiony and it was painful. Have you ever inserted the cup and then you like stand and you walk around and then it's like, and you're like, oh,
it like shoots out, it like slaps you.
And you feel like your insides are being sucked through your out of your body, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, no.
That's what I have to say, guys.
Me too. I think we touched on everything we wanted to talk about.
And more.
And more.
I got very upset about pregnancy, but it really is the truth.
No, but it's a big topic.
Yeah. And we're not in a space where I don't know, that you're going to be pregnant soon.
Not soon, guys.
So
I first need to sort out my body.
Maybe at that time we can have this conversation again and have it in depth and whatever. And for me personally, I'm not planning on ever getting pregnant, so I don't know if I can ever sit here and speak from personal experience. But, we might be able to have this conversation at a later stage. But I think this is as far as the conversation is gonna go for
now. For a while, guys.
For a while.
Don't get excited.
Let's hope.
Don't ask me when I'm having a child either, please. I'll punch you in the throat.
Watch these YouTube comments get spicy.
You're like, I see a bump. We got the pregnancy glow.
Now every week you're gonna get, are you pregnant?
Shut the fuck up.
Don't do that. If you're watching this, don't do that.
This will be the Jessica podcast.
Absolutely not. I will turn off the comments. Okay, guys.
Cool.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for being with us.
If you have suggestions on topics that you really want us to talk about, speak to us. Tell us what you want us to talk about, because this was a suggested topic. And yeah, we had a lot of fun discussing this. I actually think that it's really important. And not like...
And like when she said that her friend suggested this, I was like, this is amazing. Why did we never think of talking about this? So yeah.
Yeah. And if you think that you might have endo, go see a doctor.
Go see your doctor, please. We are not medical professionals.
No, don't take any of this as medical advice, but take it as like general life advice maybe, and just use it to guide yourself in the direction that you think will work the best.
Right.
And if you're not a period haver,
I was just gonna say that. If you're still here and you're not someone that experiences periods, I'm so glad that you stayed with us.
Yeah, thank you for educating yourself and being here, and we hope we taught you something in some way that wasn't too traumatizing, a little bit graphic. Yeah, see you guys next week.
Oh, we have a thing.
Namaste.